originating from the podcast studio inside FAM 360's headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. This is the Above and Beyond Leadership Podcast. The Above and Beyond Leadership Podcast is designed to encourage, equip, and inspire our audience through a combination of inspirational stories and real-life experiences shared by other successful and skilled leaders in a variety of vocations. We hope that the Above and Beyond Leadership Podcast empowers each one of us to step out, step up, and ultimately thrive as leaders. Now here's our host, Mr. Matt Maloney.
Hello and welcome again to the Above and Beyond Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Mr. Matt Maloney, and we are back on this episode with my guest continuing from the last episode, Miss Lauren Lefevre. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me back.
You're very welcome. I'm excited to talk more with you today and really just have you share with the audience just about your some personal wisdom that you can impart on audience members that may be looking to do some of the things that you've done, maybe not in the same vocation or same area, but different areas that are just needing inspiration. So we're going to talk a lot about that today. Before we get started, I'm going to do a little icebreaker, some fun questions. Okay. First of all, what do you do in your spare time for fun?
If I'm not working with my family, you will find me for sure on the tennis courts. I took up tennis about 3.5, 4 years ago. I played as a child or as a teenager. I haven't played since. And I decided I need something that was totally separate from work and family life. And tennis has been that for me. It's been a great mix of like getting a good workout while making social relationships that also have nothing to do necessarily with work or family, and burn a lot of calories. And it's also been like mentally competitive, which has been awesome. Yeah. My husband would say I'm tennis obsessed, and I'm okay with that. I love it.
That's okay. Tennis is the great. I really do feel like it's one of the top sports for people to play, because you can play it as long as your body is healthy. I mean, you can play it your whole life. Yep. It's very social. It's more active, and I love golf too, and I love some of it, but it's more social, I think, than golf is in many respects. The whole family can get involved if the family wants to play. Of course, friends and relationships that you develop. I have a love-hate relationship with tennis. I'll talk about that just briefly. I played as a junior, traveled around, played in tournaments, played in college. Wow. And then after I got out of college, started another business, sold it, started this business. And then about 3 or 4 years into starting this business, I started playing tennis again. But I recognized that I couldn't play at the same level that I had played at before. And then I started hating it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not living up to my own expectations. And by happenstance, I was playing in a tournament and I rolled my ankle, popped all the ligaments, and I had a stick shift at the time. Well, it was on my left ankle. I couldn't drive my car, so I'd have my opponent drive me home.
Stop. That's the worst.
It was crazy. So I still love the game, and I will get out every once in a while and hit the ball around, but there's a bit of a love-hate relationship there.
Oh, so I bet.
Great sport, though. Okay. Do you, what is your favorite, or do you even have one? I don't know, but efficiency hack to get through this busy, crazy schedule you have? Do you have an efficiency hack? Do you have this is a little trick to the trade for me that helps me get through my day?
This one sounds funny, but I always share this on my Instagram to other fellow mom entrepreneurs, is on Mondays, especially during the school year, I make it a day where I stay in my workout clothes all day long. I don't plan anything that I have to wash my hair for, unless there's like a school parent meeting or something that I have to. Yep. Literally Mondays are my day where I don't waste any time. It sounds gross, but I don't waste time showering and getting ready. And that's my day to literally knock off my to-do list, return emails, get a workout in, and then just keep plugging along. I love it. And it's usually a Chipotle night for the family, so I'm not thinking through dinner as well. Monday is like my prep day for the week, and literally as being a woman, saying, hey, I'm not devoting 30 minutes to an hour getting ready. That's time that I can put into kind of planning my week.
That's great. Yeah. And so it creates flow. I don't know if you've heard that, but flow is so important in getting a lot of things done, efficiency and the things with the busyness that we have. And if we can create kind of that flow without those breaks in between, that's what you're doing. So that's cool. All right. Last one. Who would play you in a movie about your life?
I would hope it'd be Reese Witherspoon.
Ooh,
I love her.
That's good.
I love her as a girl boss entrepreneur and just as a person. I've been able to meet her a few times. And she's just a doll. And I love her spunky personality. Mike always says that we remind each other of each other. So,
okay. That's cool. I love that. I love Reese. Not that I know her, but she's a
very likable person.
She's a likable person.
Which I would hope that I am too.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So as we get into this episode, just a glimpse for the audience, whatever you'd like to share just about your family. Of course, we mentioned on the last episode, Mike is your husband, and he's obviously been a big supporter of you and spoken to you, but just a little bit about your family.
Yeah, so we're married 15 years and have 11-year-old twins, Jack and Lily, boy, girl, which is really fun. And I love this stage of life right now. I don't want them to get any older. Yeah. It's easy right now. They're easy. They love us still. They'll still give hugs. They're not embarrassed of us yet.
Yeah, it's coming.
Yes, I know.
It's coming. We are savoring that with our son Manning, who's an 8-year-old, and he has definitely has a tendency to sleep in our bed and crawl in our bed. And I've been like, no, he's got to get, and he goes into his bed school nights or whatever. But my wife has said, you know what? This is our last one.
Yep.
He will snuggle with us. The girls, my 13-year-old, maybe a little bit, my 15-year-old, no, forget it. It's over. It's gone.
So sad.
It is.
It happens too fast. It sounds cliche, but it's so true.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So people need to speak into you, right? And you need to gain inspiration from people. So is there someone that you look up to as a leader or that's inspiring to you for, and whether it's personal or professional or whatnot, and why?
So I'll go big here, but, in my daily life, I kind of am a little bit isolated from being around, because I'm mainly around, most of my friends are stay-at-home moms. I don't have this plethora of people in my everyday life. I have my influencer friends that we are always chatting and stuff. Yeah. So I look for inspirational leaders, and one of my very, very favorite girl boss heroes is Sara Blakely.
Ooh.
What's interesting is on the last episode, you introduced me not knowing with a quote by her that I absolutely love.
Oh my gosh. She's awesome.
She's awesome. And I think even launching this Lauren Lily brand and literally putting together earring backs on packing stuff in my dining room right now. I think about all of the stories that I've heard and podcasts I've listened to about Sara Blakely and how she started in a small spare bedroom of her apartment, and she just didn't take no for an answer, and she just kept pushing ahead even in the face of opposition. And now as the self-made billionaire, she really, everyone I know that's worked for her speaks so highly of her kindness and her generosity. She makes time for her family, and she's not afraid to just be real. She's one of my favorite people to follow on Instagram. If you don't follow her, you need to watch her stories. I laugh at her every single day.
Yeah.
And
she's
I love
awesome.
that has not changed. I don't know her personally, but her success has not,
has not altered that.
Not altered that.
Yeah.
And I would only hope that for myself.
Yeah, she's awesome. Sara, you heard it right there.
That's right.
If you're listening, tune in, listen right here.
Give me a follow and the Above and Beyond Leadership Podcast.
There you go. big fan here. Well, here too, by the way. So that's great. All right. So do you have a motto, and some people do, some people don't, but a motto or a quote or scripture or just whatever it might be that's just hey, these are some things right now, whether it's this is lifetime and this is what I live by, or these are just some kind of buzzwords that really fit with me right now, and they're helping getting me through the day.
It's a great question. Okay, so if you follow me on Instagram, you probably know, or you will learn if you do follow me, that I love to post quotes every day. My mind is always full of quotes. I love saving quotes. I don't have one specific one, but the words that I really try to live by, I would say if I was to create a mantra, it would include these things. It would be the power of hard work. I truly believe that anything is possible if you work hard enough. And that's something I want to instill in my kids. The importance of kindness, treating people. My mom's really instilled that to me, to be kind to literally everyone, from the person at the fast food line, person at the bank, to your friends, to treat people the way you'd want to be treated. It goes a long way. It always comes back around.
No doubt.
Loyalty. And I would say also the power of hope. That's a big thing. I actually I just relaunched this necklace I designed called the Hope Necklace on Lauren Lily today. But the word hope is important, not in a personal sense with my faith, but also I think when times get hard in business, of believing that a better time's ahead, and if you trudge through, there is always light at the end of the tunnel, even when you don't feel it.
That's
and
right.
To be able to speak that to people around you and to yourself when you don't believe it.
It's at least in Christian circles, it may, I don't know if it's cliche or not, but like that belief of and that posture of hope, knowing that sometimes we're in their valley and coming out, and whether it's personally or professionally or even spiritually, we're in ruts or whatnot, but hope that there is a better tomorrow. And it always comes to pass. There's a better tomorrow.
It really does. And let me add one more word, because I think this is important for anyone wanting to do anything like I do, is authenticity. I mean, we all, there's always more than meets the eye, right? But I think as I've gotten older and being on social media platforms, it's easy to want to just present the highlight reel. And I mean, we all do that, right? With our Facebook pages. But I have seen that there is actual powered authenticity with even business, with people trusting you more. As I've gotten older and shared some hard things that have happened in my personal life and my family's life, it only draws people, the right people, I think, to be more loyal.
Of course.
And so it's like, you're not doing it to get that, but that's like a benefit to being authentic. And that's probably something, going back to Sara Blakely, which makes her so likable to people, is she's just really real. And so I think my early years, I was so like, had to keep up this facade. And now I'm like, no, what people want to see is the filter-free jump down. Like, they still want the pretty pictures, but no one lives like that all the time.
That's
and
right.
I think if one thing, like the past couple hard years with COVID and everything in America, have been like, people want to see the real.
Yeah.
And so being able to
good.
infuse that into our businesses or social media life is crucial, I think.
Yeah, that's huge. What are your current, so with Lauren Lilly, we talked about that towards the end of the last episode, and you shared that, and this is important for the audience to understand, every great leader has a vision for where they want their organization or where they want their personal life to go. And then putting steps, just taking action, taking that first step to put that vision into play. And you don't have to, I've said this is probably my seventh time I've quoted this on my podcast. It's a quote by Martin Luther King. It says, you don't have to see the whole staircase. You just have to be willing to take the first step. And so you talked about, you had this vision of, hey, I'm 41 years old now. What is it going to look like when I'm 50? These are the things that I kind of want to accomplish. I want to really have my own brand at some point. Now you do have your own brand. You're starting with accessories.
Yep.
And so you had this whole vision, but in terms of the goals for, the business, what does that ultimately look like? So we're starting with accessories. I mean, is it going to be clothing and furnishings and everything? Or, I mean, do you have a grand vision on that yet, or is it still coming together?
No, I have the grand vision, and it has actually been hard for me to start small because my dreams for it are so big. But I knew, just like you said, the first step had to be manageable and something I could actually start with. If I started to design sofas today, or not that I even want to get in the sofa business, but if I started with all of these things, I would never do it. So I started small. But no, my vision is to really create a lifestyle brand have items that make women, both tweens, girls, tweens, moms, empty nesters, every age, feel fabulous. And then expand that into home things. And then I also have a vision of really having a give back element to that. And I have some creative ideas about, right now I'm set up to, I'm giving a part of the portions to 2 organizations that support foster kids, adoption, and widows, both domestically and overseas. And I have some really cool ideas about making that really tangible, where people can see how their purchases are going to help people. And again, I wanted all of this to be ready and to launch when I launched the shop, and I realized it's okay. And Mike keeps reminding me, like, you have time to figure out all this. Just start somewhere. And I think that's a great piece of advice I was given, and I need to pass along to other entrepreneurs, is if you wait until you've got it all perfect or figure it out, or even until you have the resources to do that, you'll never start. Start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. And starting small, but having a plan around that. And I love how that was part of your business plan. Like, hey, I want to have a missional element to this because this is bigger than me. And that's a great legacy to leave, right? And to share with your followers and constituents and customers, to say, hey, this organization's bigger than just accessories and clothing and furniture or whatever it might be, right?
Totally.
That's great. So I commend you for that.
Thank you.
So if you look at things that you're feeding yourself with, right? And I know you talked about Sara as an inspiration to you, Sara Blakely as an inspiration to you. But you know, every day when you look at the with Lauren Lilly and how you're trying to grow that, do you currently have wise counsel that's speaking into you from just a more tactical perspective, saying, hey, I've done this, I've been there, or maybe you had wise counsel that was speaking to you as you, with this vision, as you led up to launching that? What did that look like? Because I think a lot of times that I don't want people to lose sight of the value of having wise counsel around them and just how that plays into starting an organization.
Right. So probably not as much as I would like, or you may think.
Yeah.
And because I always welcome that. I'm like, I want to learn from others' mistakes, right? I want to teach others from mine. But I mean, for the past couple of years since I've had the vision for Lauren Lilly, I have met with countless other people, big scale, small scale businesses, smaller scale boutiques. What have you learned? How have you set this up? What have you learned from inventory? So just a lot of Q&A all the time. I don't have per se.
Gosh, there's so many details there, right?
So many details. At the same time, I've self-taught myself almost everything, which has been a bear, but something I'm proud of as well. So I think it's been a mix. I always tell Mike, like, gosh, I would just wish I had this business female girl boss. I wish Sara Blakely would mentor me, basically. But I wish.
Hello, Sara. Are you out there?
I wish I had this unicorn of a person to mentor me. And I think part of the way I'm driven is I'm okay to forge ahead without that.
Yep.
But yes, I've asked a lot of questions, all sorts of things. But at the same time, I've also realized I've got to learn the ins and outs of my business myself. And so literally right now I'm like, okay, I'm excited to train and hire people, but I'm the only person that knows everything. I gotta get that out.
That sounds like a great piece of advice then to entrepreneurs or other men or women that are looking to start something. I mean, you talked about taking the first step, don't have it all put together, make sure you have the vision, you know where you're going, but be willing to take that first step. But you just said something that I don't want to lose sight of, is that you've been doing all of this yourself. And I think that that's valuable if ultimately you're going to train other people, right, to do those things, because you've sat in their shoes, you've sat in that seat, you've walked down that path. And so you have, who better, right, than to be able to do it. I think that that's super important.
Right. I know how to do all the inventory, the buying, the loading on the website, the taking the pictures, the shipping, every single part I've literally done by myself at this point. I was very tempted to go ahead and just have someone own, hey, you just own the shipping piece and I'll pay you to do that. Yeah. But I knew that long-term I had to do everything just like they would do it, Home Depot or Chick-fil-A or other organizations that have a lot of success with the higher ups, because they've all been on the floor. And I knew that I had to do that. And I'll be honest, as someone that's already juggling another business, my excuse was, I don't have time for this. I need to just hire this out. And Mike and I just kept saying, or he kept saying to me, but Lauren, the way you're going to be successful is to do this. And so I had to create that time. And that meant giving up social things, a lot of really, really late nights or early mornings, or working on Saturdays when I want to just go to the pool or whatever. Yeah. But now I can say I know every aspect of my business. And so when I do hire people and train them, I will always know that. And I'm very proud of myself for that.
Absolutely, as you should be.
So it's not been without some blood, sweat, and tears along the way.
That's great. You shared earlier about, you just a glimpse of it, and I just want to go back to it for a second, because we're talking about kind of goals for the business and whatnot. But you had said with your daughter that one day you hope that maybe she would be involved in the business. So do you have a vision that this is a legacy business? This is a business that you could leave behind for her and kind of impart on her? I
would love that. I never want to assume. She's more creative and artistic than I'll ever be. And so who knows what God has in store for her. And I never want her to feel pressure she has to do what I do, but I would love to leave something that my kids could have a part in and run if it ever really takes off to that level, for sure. And right now I'm really having her speak into she's selecting items that girls in her age group, that tween age group, would like, and she's very proud of that. So that's as I select things, I'm having her speak into that, and then we'll be designing some stuff together in the near future, which I'm excited about.
I think as an entrepreneur, that is the ultimate trophy of success is to, in at least in part, is to be able to say, hey, I can pass this along to one of my children, right?
Yep.
A legacy business. I mean, that's so cool. My business is as it is today is not going to be a legacy business. That's not the plan for it. But the next one, see, I'm already planning the next one.
Yep.
The next one is going to be a legacy business because hopefully if my kids want to be an entrepreneurs, they do that. So, all right, great. So look, you have a lot of wisdom that you've gained through through this whole journey of yours, a lot to be proud of. If you were to go back and give your younger self, 17-year-old Lauren, maybe 22-year-old Lauren, some advice of the things that you've learned, what kind of advice would you give your younger self?
I would say, and I need to tell myself this every day, is to like not be so afraid. Like what are you waiting on? Like take the risks. Like most risks that any of us would take are not too detrimental if they fail.
Right.
So I would say take the risk, take any kind of connections that you have. I really built a lot of my business on treating people with kindness, creating good relationships.
Yeah.
And sometimes I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't like take advantage of that connection. Like this person offered me something, maybe a connection, and I was afraid.
Right.
Like why wouldn't I have walked through that door?
Yeah. Right.
Like my confidence have grown so much in my 30s and now my 40s. The older you get, I think you care less. You care a little bit less what people think.
Sure.
You're more willing to take risks. And I wish that I, had gone back and just been like, just walk through the door or take the leap of faith. Like there's really nothing that's, if you fall flat on your face, you've got time to figure it out.
Yeah. How many times I've heard this and it's funny, we still as human beings, I don't know what it is, if it's maybe our insecurities as we're younger or whatnot, but I've heard so many times that be willing to take the risks. Take risks when you're younger. Go through those doors and see what that is. Yeah. And I've countless people I've talked to. That's one of the piece of advice that they would tell themselves. So that's great.
Don't be afraid what people think.
They're right.
Right? Because that stops, especially when you're younger, you're like paralyzed. Like, what is this one friend or family member going to think?
Yeah, exactly.
Who cares? Keep going.
Who cares? Keep going. Exactly. When your life is over and the books are written about you, about Lauren Lefevre, what do you hope that those books say about the person you were?
That's such a big question. I'm like trying to funnel this down.
Yeah,
I would want people to feel like they could be themselves around me, that I encourage them to, be closer to Jesus, be closer to who they were created to be, that I hopefully encouraged them in their passions to discover that, and that I was kind and generous. I think that's something my parents really instilled in me, with generosity and kindness. And my stepdad, who I called my dad, passed away less than 2 years ago. And when I think about his legacy, he turned his challenges into helping others and living authentically with that. And just like being very generous with his weaknesses so that other people could,
thrive and get through
things.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing, like when I mentioned the past episode of like someday, like writing a book about the behind the scenes. And I would hope as I get older that could come out. That's and good. People would feel encouraged with all the mess behind the scenes in their own life, that there's hope, and that
I like that
there's a bright future for them.
Yeah.
I don't even know if all that made sense. But.
No, it made tons of sense. Lauren Lefevre, we are at the end of our time. Hey,
thank you so much for having me.
You have been a great guest. You're a treasure to so many people. Let me encourage you on that. Seriously. And I've heard so many people say that. So just want to kind of affirm you on that. And I wanted to close with this quote here from none other than Joan of Arc that I thought was fitting for you. It says, "I am not afraid. I was born to do this." And I think you were born to do exactly what you're doing right now, that God has ordained this, and just want to wish you well in success now and your future success, and stay the path.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for the encouragement for having me on
here. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. To all of our listeners out in podcast land, thanks again for joining us on the Above and Beyond Leadership Podcast. I hope your days are filled with opportunity to inspire and empower others as you go out and try to lead above and beyond. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Our executive producer and host is Matt Maloney, President and CEO of FAM360. Strategic Communication Coordinator, Michelle Ducato. Production assistance by Tin Dog Studios. Director, John Berland. Creative Assistant, Whitney Berland. Theme song, Connecting Dots by Curtis Cole, provided by Artlist. Please subscribe today and don't miss any of our weekly episodes.